What's up, everyone? Welcome to a mini episode of Billionaires Book Club, where I read, review, discuss a book written by a billionaire. In this mini episode, I'll be talking about one specific thing I've learned in a book by Boone Pickens. He's an oil billionaire, and his book's called The First Billion is the Hardest. Quite a name. So specifically in this video, we're going to be talking about one point, which is how important exercise and emotional health is to your success. And I want to illustrate this with a very specific example, which this man gives in this book. He pretty much says, almost literally, what he says is that there are many entrepreneurs, myself included, who get so wrapped up in what they do that they forsake almost everything else in life. They don't exercise, they don't work on their social life, they have no social life. Their personal relationships dwindle, their marriage dwindles, everything goes down the drain. Their nutrition and their diet is horrible and filled with junk food, and on and on and on. And they forsake their emotional health, and therefore they can get very depressed, or they can become a mess, and they can become unhappy and all this stuff. And the point he was trying to make, and this is coming from a billionaire, is that all these things can happen, and just because you're rich or you're a CEO or you're a founder of a company, that doesn't mean you're perfect or you're a god or you have all this stuff. I see it all the time. I definitely think that not everyone, but a lot of people, they assume that, oh, because this man's so wealthy or famous, that means that he doesn't have any problems and the rest of his life is golden. Not necessarily. Sometimes they're average or below average in other areas because of the focus and intensity that they've put onto that pathway. And I think that's true for a lot of entrepreneurs. Like the ones you see in movies and the ones you see on Instagram and so forth aren't, representative of all entrepreneurs. There's a lot out there. And a lot of them, in order to get that success or wealth, they had to focus really, really hard on what they do. So understand that. And, I'm sure there are a few, but I think, they're not in the majority, but there are a few who have, mastered all these things naturally. But what you learn is that to achieve success in your life, I think, in multiple areas, your health, your nutrition, your happiness, your emotional health, your emotional intelligence, your depression, your happiness, your wealth, all those things, it requires a certain level of focus and time in all these areas. And even someone who's killing it in one area can screw up in a lot of the others, as did Boone Pickens. And he ended up getting into a very depressed state despite making millions because he was so focused on his business. And then he ended up resorting to antidepressants, which he claimed fixed it. But again, it still pulled him down for the most part for a long time. So realize that. Work on multiple aspects of you. It reminds me of the billionaire. You can look this man up. There's a billionaire who got so caught up in his business that when he made a business decision that went wrong and it caused him to go, to a $300 million loss, he ended up killing himself. And it's just ridiculous because he's still worth hundreds of millions, but he was so wrapped up because of the loss of reputation, because of the loss of all this money and a bunch of other stuff. I mean, I don't know his full story, so I can't judge him, but it's just a tragedy that this man, despite having all this wealth and all this stuff, he can get so caught up in what he's doing and not really step back and appreciate life and all this stuff, that he ends up killing himself. And I've actually been there in other ways, not in terms of wealth, but I've definitely been caught up in focusing on the bad things I have in life and the negative things so much that I've become depressed or unhappy unnecessarily. And reading a lot of happiness books and books on the science of happiness and working on those activities and habits and seeing what science has to say about what us human beings need to be truly happy in the long term, that's helped me a lot in terms of my emotional intelligence and so forth. So basically that's my rants for you guys. And again, health is very important. Boone Pickens, he was already knocking out of the park. But then he discovered fitness, and in his 60s and 70s, he got really into, exercise and cardio. And he realized that it improved his concentration, his focus, all of this stuff tremendously. So he started doing it more and more. And then eventually he spent $2.5 million to get all his employees into the gym. And then, in order to not, waste money, he said that unless you're using this gym membership, I'm not giving it to you. So I'm going to check on that. So that's what he did. And his company ended up being the most fit company in the nation. And then, I'm sure it's added up in terms of productivity and a lot of other things. So I do think, for many people out there, even if you're at the top or you're doing very well, health and fitness can help you in so many different ways. And many people don't achieve or unleash this potential. I mean, despite me loving Warren Buffett, this billionaire, this super successful individual who's really good in a lot of areas, from social skills, business decisions, business knowledge, to happiness and, being humble and not being caught up in the media world and on and on and on. Despite all that, he still has his weaknesses. He eats McDonald's to this day, every single day. He eats banana split sundaes and drinks nothing but Coca-Cola. He hasn't drank any type of beverage other than Coca-Cola for the last 20 or 30 years of his life. And, despite him still being alive at the ripe old age of, I think, 70 or 80 years of age, I think he could have potentially lived a lot longer and, been a lot healthier and even had more focus and attention and energy and confidence and looked a lot better too. And, all those other benefits to health and fitness, like those hormones and endorphins and extra energy and concentration and, feeling better. In fact, it even helps with your happiness if you exercise on a regular basis. And there's so many benefits to it. It helps with attracting women, on and on and on. So I really do encourage it. And I'm kind of working on doing what I preach. And for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been fairly consistent with going to the gym from, not going to the gym for a long time now. And I've gone for maybe 1 or 2 hours a day for maybe 3 days a week for the last 2 or 3 months now. But then for the last 2 weeks or so, I've just stopped because I've just been busy and I'm not gonna lie, I've been lazy. So now I'm at the gym, and hope you guys can see it. It's Planet Fitness, and there it is behind me. So I'm getting back into it, and it's my first day back in about almost 2 weeks now. So I'm proud of myself, and that's all I gotta say. And one trick I did to push myself here is just to tell myself, I just want you to spend 20 minutes at the gym or 10 minutes and just work from there. And my problem is probably the reverse of a lot of you guys, which is I go in there and I end up spending like 3 hours there, and I just get so burnt out that I don't go again, or it intimidates me so much. And I have to cut out that temptation of spending too much time on one visit. So that's all I gotta say. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Peace.